Hello everyone. Here we'll try to understand what is isometric and what is isotonic contraction. Types of contraction. Tension is the force of the contracting muscle acting on an object. Load is the force exerted on the muscle by an object, that is weight of the object against which the muscle tension acts. Thus, muscle tension and load acts against each other. When an object is to be lifted, muscle tension has to be more than the opposing load. Contractions are of two types: isometric contraction and isotonic contraction. Isometric contraction. When muscle contraction is associated with no apparent change in the muscle length, the phenomenon is called as isometric contraction. The muscle develops tension but does not shorten or lengthen. For example, when somebody is trying to lift a heavy object. During this type of contraction, the cross bridges bind with the actin molecules and attempt to pull them but cannot drag the thin filaments because the load is greater than the tension exerted by the muscle fiber. This exerts a force on the thin filament, the isometric tension. If isometric contraction is continued, cycling cross bridges again and again bind to the same actin molecule. According to the law of physics, if displacement is zero, the work done is also nil, though the force is generated and energy is spent. Thus, isometric contraction, no external work is done. Isometric tension can be recorded with the help of isometric lever when the muscle is stimulated to contract with its two ends held at fixed points. Isotonic contraction. When muscle contraction is associated with no apparent change in the muscle tone, this phenomenon is called as isotonic contraction. The shortening of the muscle fiber occurs due to the sliding of thin over thick filaments. Examples of such contractions are walking, running, lifting an object, etc. Isotonic contraction is also known as concentric contraction. Processes in isometric and isotonic contraction. When an object is lifted, initially tension increases in the muscle till it becomes equal to the downward pulling force, that is, a force due to the weight of the object, without any change in the muscle length, and that is the fibers, they undergo isometric contraction. Once the tension is in the muscle is greater than the opposing load, shortening contraction of the muscle lifts the object and brings it to the new position. Here the fibers undergo isotonic contraction. Now if the object has to be held in a space in the new position, the fibers undergo isometric contraction, the tension generated being just equal and opposite to the load of the object. Pushing against the wall is an example of isometric contraction. And if the elbow does not bend during the act, that is, the distance between shoulder and the hands remains unchanged.